Will Indy do the introduction?
Yep. Hold on. Don't be shy.
Welcome back to Kings and Generals, the podcast. You always wondered who the voiceover was of this YouTube channel. Now you know. Please subscribe so we can have more bones.
Schmecko.
You're famous. You famous. Mwah.
Can we make an Instagram page for Indy as well and get like?
Well, that's basically mine.
All right, welcome to the FriendlyJordies podcast. We're very happy that you joined us today. We've got a full podcast filled with very exciting segments, and the first one is Miss Love. I think you'll appreciate this segment. For the first
Frankie's.
time,
Sorry, go on.
talk about Frankie's in the pre-show. If you want to know more about that, then become a patron. The first one is Pentagon has just confirmed a UFO.
Tell me more.
Look, throughout there were reportings that I've seen this this unidentified flying object, and always the response was, "It's a smudge on your camera screen. Stop it." But for the first time, Pentagon has said, "Yep, the video." So some Marine, can't remember his name. I think his name's Campbell something. He was recording a footage on a thermal radar, which is the one that captures heat. And what you could see, I've seen the video.
I've seen the photo, actually.
You have? So it's like a spherical / pyramidish object, and it's coming at an extremely fast pace, goes straight into the water. And here's the crazy bit about it. It has no debris. It was not destroyed. Anything in like this world's physics that hits the water at that speed will leave traces, but not this. So whatever it was, it's working at the physics laws are completely different for this. There are several theories. I can get into the theories, but what do you guys think about this? Do aliens exist or what?
I think I should precurse by saying, once again, Jordan is in the right chair.
Yes, finally. Couldn't come at a more opportune time.
It's just like, is that chair a UFO? It looks like alien debris to me. Sorry.
Yeah, if you zoom in on the footage, it just has on it right there. Oh, of course, it was Razor. No, sorry. Pentagon denies it once again.
I love this stuff. I love suspending my disbelief at these times. I think it's unequivocally a UFO. What do you think?
Well, it is a UFO.
Well, it is a UFO, but I'm just trying to figure out what alien from Men in Black it is.
Yeah. And that Democratic candidate that was laughed off the stage and his career run as president was stopped because he said that he's seen a UFO.
Joe Biden?
And everyone started laughing at him. Probably was a joke.
Hey, enough of this malarkey. Aliens exist. We all know that.
Malarkey. Who was it?
Unidentified to him is anything that isn't the Hindenburg blimp.
Quantish. Yeah.
But so do you guys want to hear what the theories are?
Yeah.
Yes,
do you have any?
please.
I mean,
One of the theories is, and these are all the rational theories. One of the theories is it is actually a drone that is being used by a foreign power.
I knew Tonga was up to something.
Jesus.
But then
Just a Tongan.
the problem is, and like
doing a cannibal.
codename China.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if Chinese have invented that kind of technology,
We're done.
they've won.
That's true.
If they have managed to defy physics, then World War III is over.
True.
But that's one of the theories. The other theory is it's being used by Pentagon as like this to basically get more funding for Space Force.
Ah. But what is it?
But no, I've seen a lot of unidentified flying object footage. And I'll admit, a lot of it does just look like a smudge on a camera. But every now and then, you do see something that is unexplainable.
Yeah.
As in, it's going in one direction, it goes in the other direction. Wow. I don't know if helicopters can do that.
Well,
yeah, but the general consensus about those was that, and I've got this from the Joe Rogan podcast, that apparently there's a lot of aircraft that the American military uses that are kind of classified because they're still in their developing stage, and they look like UFOs. There's a few pictures out there because it has come out.
Can they move like UFOs?
Apparently they can. Latest technology. But we don't know. That's one of the theories that is being posed for that. But this is not that
actually kind of
case.
ties into Alex Jones's theory that everything that you're seeing right now, it's really from the 50s. That's the technology. Just think about it like that. We're about a century behind in what they actually release. And then he showed us footage from the 50s of, I think, 3D goggles that existed.
Yeah.
And they did look exactly like my Oculus. Which just adds more theory to the fact that I should be sitting in this chair. But come on.
Sorry.
It does seem like that is a way of explaining the U part in UFO.
I think Jones is onto something here. I mean, there's no doubt that that it is a time release of technology. I mean, even if you look at the fact of like the iPhone technology, the internet, you know, being essentially like a government hoarded invention, FBI, CIA, whatever it was.
Look, all of that might be true, but there's the last theory that it's aliens. We're missing the elephant in the room. And the Pentagon has basically said the video is real. It is a UFO.
What do you think?
I think, well, I don't know what to think, but here's my question. Let's assume for a second that it is aliens. The question then becomes, why are they trying really hard to hide themselves? If you have that level of technology, wouldn't you just like announce that you're here?
Maybe it's just like we're North Sentinel to them.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I've been dabbling with this theory here and there upon the ponderings of my mind that it's a trippy thought that everyone, you know, you think about aliens like, oh, they're going to invade. It would be, I think the trippiest thought is that aliens are so uninterested with us and our level of civilization that we're like ants
Yeah,
to
but
them.
what are they doing in Hawaii then?
Coconuts? Don't know. I mean,
How about this? This is my personal
but that is a
theory.
possibility.
It is a possibility. That's
no,
like
not
actually,
the coconuts. That like I don't know what they're doing. They're probably like burrowing to the center of the ocean to get the ink from a giant squid because they realize that gives them better orgasms. I don't fucking know.
That's actually the Michio Kaku
could be
theory.
true.
yeah. Hey,
The Michio, you know the Michio Kaku, who's like this, one of the OG intellectuals of the dark web, but like he was more about science and why Einstein is amazing. He said that
Wow,
aliens.
what an edgy opinion. No wonder he was good to the
is this the guy Dome Kang loved?
confines of the net. What?
Is this the guy Dome Kang loved?
Fat Fist Freddy?
No.
He was the original of the intellectual dark web. That guy is really dark. I reckon he's still got 50 followers on Facebook.
Oh my god,
He was saying that it's
lower
not.
than Forest Hall levels.
Yeah, but way more woke.
yeah.
His thing was that it's not that the aliens are hiding themselves from us. It's just that we're too stupid to know that they're there. He was saying that he
So it's Men in
compared
Black.
humans to like goldfish in a bowl. The goldfish just revolves around. It doesn't even realize that there's a human behind it.
Well, apparently when the Mayflower rocked up to the New World, Indians couldn't see it for a week, and it took their tribe elders a long time of staring out there and thinking, why are the waves moving like that? And then finally their brain could comprehend that there was a huge wooden boat there. And let's just think about that gap in technology between a wooden boat and something that can dive into the ocean and not leave debris. Then again, why is a Marine looking at it? They're all pretty dumb. Like, they're called jarheads for a reason.
But that is a good point. I mean,
Well, maybe it's not a Marine. It's someone, I don't know what it is.
I mean,
but
even the idea that like, you know, I mean, I think that we use, isn't it like we use like 20% of our brain capability?
That's a myth. I actually looked it
Really?
up. No, we don't. We use most of it.
Okay, that's a
That's
myth.
like
I think
a
we
thing.
use 20% of it when we're watching TV.
Right.
Well, but collectively we use most of it.
But the doors of human perception are, I mean, that example is pretty poignant of that something can be in front of your face. I mean, it happens when you're looking for something. How often are you looking for something? And it was in front of you the whole time. Oh.
What about
Yeah, and that's salt. You've seen salt before.
I know. A few times at least.
Definitely.
So like, I mean, I have, but I don't think it's an unbelievable thing that you know.
I reckon that they've
something's
definitely
out there.
contacted this planet before. And I'm just pretty much basing that off this one Discovery Channel documentary I saw when Discovery Channel started taking a real nosedive in its...
No pun intended.
You know, when they started doing documentaries about Are Mermaids Real? Kim Kardashian was like, really? That's crazy.
I knew it, bitch.
Then again, I was one of those people because the fact that they showed a skull of some ancient Egyptian priest that made it go more oblong shaped by putting a bunch of bands on it to shape it over time, and then showed them some mythology that they had, the same as Aboriginals here, that there are something that looks exactly like those big-headed aliens that lived in the cracks and taught them about hunting.
There's a lot of
this one taught them about pyramids, and they're just in exact alignment with stars.
That's bizarre. That's
Let's
bizarre.
just put it this way, as Ali would say, it's a theory.
Yeah.
My theory. What about this? This is my theory, and this is probably not accurate, but hear me out.
Hey, wait a sec. Ali is short for alien.
Fuck.
Okay, how about this theory? Look, so clearly, you know, like we've evolved over the years, right? So we've gotten better at understanding our nature with like hundreds of thousands of years, and because the universe is expanding, whatever aliens are clearly way ahead of us. If they are managing to come down here, they've been around a lot longer than we have, essentially. So they are way more advanced than us. So in pre-scientific revolution age, they would have probably contacted us in forms of like what we now say, God whispers us or whatever, the flaming bush of Moses. But since the scientific revolution, they've been like, okay, now they are on the path to come to where we already are, but it will obviously take us like thousands of years more. So then they're like, they don't want to fuck with us because they're like, okay, now they're on the right track, so they'll move on.
Could be an experiment.
Yeah.
Could be that they need squid ink.
Squid ink is very cool.
It could be either, honestly. They're not.
Well, that's the other thing. It's if they're beyond our comprehension that we can't see them, surely the reasons for them contacting us are beyond our comprehension. And it's not that far off to think that they have just created some device that is near impossible for us to see, because my snake, for instance, sees the world in a completely different way to I see it. You know?
Are you calling alien
That's what I'm saying.
snakes?
Like, it's easy to have your perceptions when you're like, you know, you're on a different plane. Like, different animals have different sense, like ability to see, sense, like that.
Yeah,
you know.
even this dog, if we turned off all the lights, apparently the dog wouldn't really even notice that the lights are off.
Damn, because it's sleeping.
She has better eyesight.
She is
than us.
sleeping at the moment. That's not a good example. But if she wasn't,
They see
asleep,
light though. They see light.
They see light, but apparently at dark time, is that the scientific word for it? They
Or otherwise known as night.
as known as night. They can see objects 5 times better than we can see objects in pitch black. And their eyesight isn't great. I think our eyesight can distinguish more colors than theirs can.
Colors. But that's
Yeah.
apparently because like we needed to know
No,
what's
we
a
traded
fruit
off
and
night
shit.
vision
Yeah,
for
we
fruit.
traded off night vision for fruits.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, evolutionarily speaking.
You know what? Maybe
That's
that's
incredible.
Because my mum, she reckons that she's lived in a couple of houses that have been haunted over her time. And
That's no conspiracy. Australia's definitely got some haunted places. But anyway.
but she was
Spitting
saying that
facts.
somehow the dogs are always first to know. As in her dog, which is very similar to Indy's, used to be growling at a corner, doing that thing with its hair off its back.
Right. Jesus, that'd be bizarre, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be.
On that note,
Or maybe the dog was kind of crazy. That happened.
yeah, it's a
too.
possibility. On that note, though,
She also saw the ghost, but then again, my mum is also crazy.
on that note, someone showed me this clip of this guy that was on one of those shows that was like, my house is haunted. And how good's this? How like 2021 is this? he was like certain the house was haunted, and like it was like, we'll leave some salt out, and it came back in the morning. It was like, leave this place, and this guy was like, I'm 2 mortgage payments off, man, and just did that and just wrote like, no, you leave, and was just like, I'm going to bed. He didn't give a shit.
Boss.
Fucking with the dead. Holy hell. Ultimate boss. And it wasn't like a comedy show. It was one of those really serious ones. It's like, we are going to help you. And he's just like, yeah, I need all the help I can get. Fucking bullshit.
Mambo t-shirt says, animals staring at walls means they're sick or dying. Did the dog die afterwards?
No.
So Mambo
He went on to live a long and happy life of 12 years.
That is long for a dog.
So now
average.
Mambo, that means that you are irrelevant, just like your name now.
But you know what else?
Probably the guy who
Because
made Mambo. He's like,
That's
fuck
something we
you.
were discussing in the previous pod, that when people are crossing over, the only people they speak to are former friends of theirs that died, that come in and visit them, and I'm assuming John Edwards. And John Edwards wasn't in the room. Maybe that was one of Mum's housemates. Who knows? Maybe he had a stint in Australia
Let's
for a
be
while,
honest.
just being like, this Hollywood thing isn't working.
Wait,
Let's
is
be honest,
John
it wouldn't be
Edwards the-
surprising, would it, if your mum lived with him? The guy from like Nick Cave's band, John Edwards.
Is that
All
from
the stars.
Twilight?
What?
John Edwards?
No. Jesus.
Do you know John Edwards?
You Google him right
I
now.
bet you know him as the failed presidential candidate against Obama.
American television personality. Is that him? Never seen the guy. What did he
Isn't
ever
it
do?
amazing that he hasn't aged?
Because
That man's never crossing over.
he is
All right.
a time
I
traveler.
learned something today.
Dude, this guy is the guy that goes in a room and it's like, I'm getting something here. A woman. You, yes,
oh, wait,
a
this
woman.
is the haunted guy, haunted house guy, is it?
No,
he
the
goes around with
afterlife.
like a meter and says, "Yep, definitely ghost."
He's on Kyle and Jackie O quite a lot.
All right.
And every time someone rings
He
up,
does
he seems
this.
to get
Look,
nothing but misses.
I'm getting something Pakistani. Okay, Pakistani. I'm getting a car. Driving car, and you go, yeah, I saw a ghost in the desert while I was driving once. It's like, that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting.
I'm sick of people making fun of him, though, because even if he is cold reading, that's still impressive in itself. You're just not impressed because you actually are psychic. But to the rest of us mere mortals, the fact that he can sit there and be like, has someone in your life died? No. Well, surely someone has died. Come on, Blake. Yeah, actually they have. Okay.
Everyone has had
you're right.
someone in their family die.
No, look, there's a criticism that he's just a bullshit artist, but Jordan's saying that he still has the talent to be able to, like, you know, like assess people's reactions pretty vividly and get
Yeah,
to
but
some
Jordan
epic...
sleeps outside a house because he's afraid that there's a ghost inside.
That was a kind of
a
scary
man
house.
who's afraid of ghosts but not afraid of the wrath that the state brings him for constantly
yeah, I know, that's him.
criticizing.
Hey, there's a guy outside your house trying to kill you. Yeah, it's fine. I'll just go home at the most sketchy times of the night on my own. It's cool.
And I'll leave the doors open.
And I'll leave the doors unlocked. And then, like, yeah, a really secluded, really beautiful part of the Blue Mountains. Ghost.
Yeah, look, I am Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. I shouldn't be part of that, that van, but yet somehow I am. I don't know why I'm so scared of ghosts. I really don't.
Well,
and I
yeah.
don't even know if I believe in them. I just know that I never want to meet one. I don't know what it is.
Apparently they
I
can
reckon
kill you
I've seen
even if
one.
you don't believe in them.
Huh?
They can kill you even if you don't believe in them.
Well, that allayed my fears. As long as they can kill me. I just don't want the salt saying, get out.
Yeah.
That's the scary part to me. You know,
Yeah.
there was this movie, I can't remember which one it was, but there was this ghost of a witch, and then the kid comes in crying to the parents saying that there is a witch talking to her, just telling her, like, you know what you should do? I think you should kill yourself. That's so much scarier to me
Jesus.
than a ghost wielding a knife or trying to possess you.
I told you the story about my ex's mum, when she was a little girl with her sister living in England, there was just a boy that would cry at the end of the bed, be like, and there was like, we would talk to him all the time and play with him.
I know, and they were so passive
Her
about it because
husband?
I said, "What about
No,
that
a boy,
ghost
not a
that was
man.
crying at your bed?" And their response was, "Huh? Ghost? Oh yes, Tommy. Yeah, he was all right."
So amazing.
What is that response?
All right.
I need to learn from them.
Have you guys seen, just on that note, have you guys seen that footage? It's like a YouTube video. It's like creepy shit found by drones. And there's some that are kind of lame, but there's one that is irrelevant of if it's a ghost or a witch. That's completely irrelevant. Even if it's just a person, it is creepy. It's this fucking forest in the middle of nowhere, just flying around, like just forest for miles. And then there's like a figure, basically just looks like a witch, like with this cloak on, this white cloak, just been like, can't see it. And the fucking thing's just like, bzz, bzz, and just kind of goes down to it. And then like the figure just kind of like, you never see its face, but kind of like looks and then just sort of like, and like scurries away into the bush. And it's like, if that's a person, what are you doing? Looking for fucking...
Why are you so scared of getting shot down?
I don't think you're dressed for like a maple tree, sapping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was just like a, Opeth fan. I don't know. Probably was actually. But like, what do they do, these Opeth fans? They just go into the forest alone and just like conjure up spirits alone.
Because the only people that dress in a white cloak are druids. So it basically is a witch.
Wait, what is a druid?
It's just a male witch.
Ah.
Damn, they're called druids?
Well, I don't know. Isn't
thought that was
that
an
the
ethnicity.
priests in pagan times? Isn't that their version of a pope? The guys that used to sit around Rosetta Stones and... No, not Rosetta Stones, that circular stones. That everyone's like, why are they in a circle?
Did somebody
Why
put
are
them-
some of them knocked down? Is it because they're thousands of years old? We'll never know. Man, unsolved mystery. It's so lame.
All right,
Warlocks.
we figured the aliens bit out, so let's move on to our next topic.
Fat
are you
dyke
guys-
on
I've
cracks.
figured that out, definitely. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Fat dyke on cracks, not having a bar of it. Can we skip this bullshit? What do you want to talk about? Discord? Something of
Man,
worth?
she's on crack, so she
very
doesn't know what's
interesting.
up.
That's so much more interesting than a potential witch.
Aliens.
Yeah. I know. Memes.
Yeah, I know. Okay, just think about that druid thing running away as a meme.
Yeah. Now you're interested.
You're on board, are you, Fat Dyke on Crack? Let us know.
And the dog was probably fucking with Jordan's mum for the meme.
Oh.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks,
Yes.
Fat dyke on crack. Thank
See,
you.
you can make anything interesting.
Do you guys, what's his name? Donald Glover / Childish Gambino. You're aware of him?
Said that Hollywood is shit because people aren't taking chances because of PC culture.
Damn right. Mr. Love knows what's up. He's totally updated with the news stories.
And he's right, in
But
my
don't you
opinion.
think he's like low-key responsible for that? as
I don't
well?
know much about his shit. Was he in Community or something? Or
He was in Community. He apparently, everyone says he's extremely talented. The problem is I
Nah,
don't know his work.
he
because
was like
I've
that.
been-
That video clip he did was like, everyone dies in America. Bang, bang. Did you know there's guns in America?
Bang,
Just
bang.
didn't know that. So yeah,
Thank you so much.
He's kind of adding.
I don't get it. I don't get him, and I'm not a huge fan. And apparently that's blasphemous. People love that guy. But the point isn't what he said. The point is that there is a big problem in Hollywood. People are afraid to make movies straight up because they don't know what particular
What
hot
they're
button
allowed
thing
to make.
is going to get them canceled, or not even just canceled. Like it'll just bring negative publicity. Everyone's just too scared
Yeah.
to even make movies.
Yeah,
now.
Rome is
Well,
falling.
he's either the most perfect person to be talking about that or the least perfect person because that man is just a giant example of cancel culture in action.
But is he? I don't know enough about him to make that judgment. I thought he was, but I don't know.
Is he? I don't
I
know.
don't know. That's what you were saying. His
No,
whole
no, no.
shtick is like, did you know guns are bad?
Well, look,
Well,
it's not,
yeah, no, yeah.
it's not his whole shtick. It's just that, like, obviously he, that was his. I don't know. I mean, look, the whole like Rome's just falling. Just that's that.
No, it's
So you
not about
reckon?
falling, but where does this end? Because eventually
doesn't end.
commercial interests are going to come in. Like investors are going to be like, "Hey, where's that next superhero movie?" Like, we need money. So
That will
where
always
would
come.
it end? Yeah,
That
that
will always
has to come, right? So there.
But that's just 101. I mean, watch any of the new Marvels, and it's just like I don't know. It's Al Jazeera with Spider-Man in it. So it's like,
hey,
Yeah, look, I think we all know the answer to that. The fact that Hollywood has this, I don't know what's culturally sensitive and what isn't. Let's just make another Texas Chainsaw Massacre where people are getting ripped apart by a chainsaw. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Nice, wholesome, family fun content.
yeah.
but even with that, like I don't want to make this controversial, but I could totally imagine a horde of Twitter followers being like, "Why did you kill that particular Indian man first?
But that's the thing;
Why
it never
not
ends.
kill the white man
Exactly.
first?"
This should
And
never.
so you-
Exactly. It gets like you start going over these ridiculously superfluous subjects with a fine tooth comb, and it's like everything can be interpreted as how a person individually sees something as individually offensive. You can do it in any way. Like this table, you could, if you were good at it, you could really just be like, oh my God, there's a million ways to be offended or have,
well, you sitting here is one of the big reasons.
Exactly.
I'm offended.
Exactly.
You just paid out Al Jazeera for no reason. I had to keep quiet about that shit.
Exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. Microaggression. So it's like, it's, I think it's a dangerous game. It's bizarre. And also I thought art was supposed to be able to transcend these boring things that, like, didn't people start to create art to transcend the discourse? Like everything now is political. It's like, is there one realm I cannot be political? Anything. An ice cream stand? No. Okay. An ice cream stand is the Senate now. Senate ice cream.
You're right.
I
Well, they
don't
do
get the
sell
Senate
gay
and ice
times.
cream bit.
I'm saying it's everywhere. I'm saying that it has to be like every single element of society has been forcefully injected with postmodern theory and objective. Like I just think it's bizarre.
I think we're missing the forest for the trees here, which is why is Childish Gambino talking about directing movies? I'm sick of this jack of all trades shit.
Yeah.
Can he just pick an art?
But a lot of people
Stop-
do that.
stop
Same with
paying
Jamie
out
Foxx.
Glover,
So it's
dude.
like, I'm a comedian, I'm a singer, I'm an actor.
But he sort of pulls it off, right?
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
Just get good at one. What is this celebrating hipsters that
Well, what do
say, director,
do you think
I'm
it-
an artist as well?
What do you think of Dave
Not
Grohl?
good at any of them.
What do you think of Dave Grohl?
I think that Dave Grohl is the greatest musician of all time. What, does he do other things, does he? I don't even want that man making sandwiches. He should pay someone else to do that. Just focus on rocking.
Hey, that's a cancel-worthy opinion. So
Why?
shed it because people love him. He's God.
Who?
Dave Grohl?
No, Childish Gambino.
I was
And
about to say, this is getting too far, man.
No, look. Well, what's her opinion? What's her opinion?
well, so I was watching the guy.
I'm
who
agreeing
wrote,
with him, by the way. It
Yeah,
has
no,
gone
we all
too
are
far.
agreeing with him. But
Yeah.
like, I was watching an interview of the guy who wrote Game of Thrones. What's his name? The guy who wrote the book.
The sailor, the fat sailor.
guy.
Yeah, J.R.R. Martin or something.
Yeah, I don't
Yes,
know.
George Miller or J.R.
We all
Martin.
know you want to be J.R. Tolkien. Just change your name.
Just change your name.
He's already there.
He was asked a question. He was like,
Sorry. Oh shit.
And lose some weight.
"Stop it! That's
You can't.
I take that. I take
Yeah, you're
personal
right. You
offense
can't
to
write
it.
fantasy work in the 21st century and not be obese.
He's a successful neckbeard guy. Leave him alone.
Got body positive. Go on.
But he was saying that one of the things that was asked.
Marries Lizzo. Yeah.
One of the things that he was asked during like a talk was, why are all the slave army or something? Why are they all black? His response was, first of all, they weren't black. We filmed it in Morocco, and so we had to get extras from Morocco, and you can't find that many white people in Morocco, so that's why they were.
And
slightly
also,
tan.
I would imagine that if he's being, because Game of Thrones is sort of like an allegory of history. He's just basically like played Age of Empires, and
no,
just
they
been
were
like,
white slaves too.
no, they were, but surely there was predominantly black slaves throughout history.
in recent history, yes, but like when
Right,
you go
okay.
back,
Right,
not
right.
necessarily.
No, but in ancient history, everyone
Egyptian
was a
slaves,
slave.
but Egyptian
yeah, like
slaves.
in ancient history, anyone could be. A
Because
slave,
I thought that I know who you're talking about. I forgot what they're called in Game of Thrones, but I thought
the
it was
Dothraki or something. I don't know.
I thought that was kind of like an allusion to Egyptian slaves. That's what I thought he was aiming at. It's like, oh, this is a vague allusion because he's not that great a writer. He's just gotten stories about history and tweaked them and just being like, yeah, it's a dragon though. Oh, it's fantasy.
Well, I don't know. Look, whatever it is, maybe there was, but it's
like,
just like
again-
you.
But don't you think anything can be construed as like, it's like, why assume that everything? I don't know. I think quotas are so silly to such
Quotas. Where did that come
Does
from?
that got to do with
everything.
slavery?
Everything.
Al
because it's
Jazeera, quotas.
I'll tell you how.
No, you know what?
I'll tell
He's
you-
actually right.
I'll explain it if you don't understand.
that slave army had quotas,
If it was
that
a-
would be insane, and that really does show where we are. You're right. It is the
Thank
decline. No, I'm on board with.
No,
Miss
what
Love
I'm
on
telling
this
you is
one.
like ideally it's like there should have been a black slave and an Asian slave, and it's like someone had to go at the director of 19 whatever the fuck it's called 31 or whatever, and it's like, why was everyone white in that movie? It's like because like apart from there was like some Indians that fought for the English, and there was indigenous Australians that fought in the wars, but it's like. It was historic. It was a film that was historically accurate. That's why it was.
Well, actually, that's
I'll
not
tell
true.
you
Apparently,
why.
there were
'cause
more
it was
Indian.
based in Europe in 1931.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but like apparently there were more Indian fighters than there were white fighters. I read that somewhere recently in the First World War because of
Yeah? Well, where the fuck were they?
well they
Why
were
they on
fighting
the
in
front
like,
line fighting
Yeah, I
the
didn't see
Germans.
they were fighting in like Southeast Asia.
Oh, right.
But
Why
they
were
were
they
more in
World
terms
War
of
One?
numbers. Yeah, World War 1 and 2 because like the British
was a
owned
front
the British
there.
Empire.
What in
Yeah.
Bali?
No, in like
Who were they fighting? Cambodia.
the Japanese.
No, that's World War II then.
Oh yeah, but either way, they are
What was Japan doing in World War One?
Don't know.
preparing for World War 2.
But do you understand?
Like
You understand my
bombs.
point?
I understand your point. And look,
This isn't
whatever,
a
it's-
nuanced point. It's like yes, there are many shades. It's like, let's not destroy art, shall we?
Hey, you want a really cancelable opinion?
No, we don't.
No.
you don't. It's
No, we'll
World War
say-
One based.
Oh yeah, I know what you.
Is it
yes,
based?
No.
It is based.
No, we know what that
It's
opinion.
so
No, I
based.
know what your opinion is, and we'll save that for the Up Late Pod. Shine up on Patreon.
Yeah, we'll keep it for the
I know what
upload.
it is.
Look, the next segment is going to be pretty cancel worthy as well. So let's
All right.
keep
Let
it
me
for the
just
upload.
make this as a teaser for the Patreon,
No.
Patreon only. You want to sign up and hear some really based opinions? I will defend why constitutional monarchies are better than democracies. Anyway, go on.
All right,
Well, that's
Panthera. Look,
Pantera.
the next segment.
Finally, some real music around.
Look, the next segment. I need you guys to be slightly serious for because I'm going to set the ground rules beforehand.
All right, give me some vape.
You can have the vape. But we're going to talk about
We know the
Israel and
ground rules.
Palestine. However, the internet is riddled with opinions. You're
Give us the
supporting
facts.
Gaza or you're supporting Israel.
We're here for facts.
And there's
there
no
are
point-
aliens. Facts. We're all about facts on this.
We're
podcast.
So what I'm gonna do is there are no opinions are allowed in this segment.
Yeah.
I'm going to recount the history for people that are sitting at home. Look, a lot of people might know a lot about this conflict, but some people might not. And the people that don't know about the conflict, they feel pressurized to, if they say that Israel is good, then they're afraid that they've let the Palestinians down, or if they do the Palestinians, then they feel that they're anti-Semitic. So we're not going to go into that debate of who's right or who's wrong. We'll let them make that decision. So hence, no opinions allowed. You guys can ask questions.
Well, that's lucky because I don't actually have any opinions on it. So
But
I'd rather-
that's
let's-
strange for
and just
someone
to
who makes a career off opinions doesn't have one about the conflict of our time.
But just to give us a heads up on like where we stand, Jordan and I are big fans of Noam Chomsky, and Miss Love is a big fan of Gavin McInnes, and that's where
the
we
two
will keep.
intellectual heavyweights of our
Yeah,
time.
that's where we will.
I'm a
keep
big fan
our
of Noam
opinions.
Chomsky as well. I'm a huge fan of Noam
Yeah,
Chomsky.
but like, look, there's a point where I
not
said
enough to
that.
listen to him.
Okay, so we'll start
Not
off.
true.
We'll just and bear with me for all those people who already know most of this, but for the people that don't, I want to give a quick recap of how this conflict began and where we are today. So it starts off with the First World War. In the First World War, what is today Israel and used to be called Palestine. Israel. We used to be called. That's not a question. You can say, is it Israel or is it
I thought this was
Israel?
about facts.
Hold your hand out. No, the other way. Bad.
Bad. Not a question.
See, you don't have to shun me, guys.
Only questions related to fact. Maybe the audience can give opinions. So it starts with World War One. During World War One, what is today Israel, and at that point was like
Israel.
Palestine or Philistine. It was
Philistine?
well, Philistine is just like is another pronunciation for Palestine.
Is it?
Yeah, we call it Palestine.
That's racist.
That's not racist.
Phallic. You said phallic. Oh my god, that's sexist.
No, I thought Philistine was a word for somebody who's not cultured.
That's what I thought.
no.
Getting to the bottom of the facts.
Well, it's in Arab, and and like look, there's most people say Gaza. Even I say Gaza, but it's like Gaza.
What is it?
Gaza.
I'm not saying that.
Anyway, well, you don't have
I'm
to.
saying it. It's fun.
You can't even say it. You don't have. You have.
Yeah. Chizr.
His.
Hezbollah.
Hey,
Hummus.
only
Hummus.
questions. Only questions.
All right. Is it pronounced hummus or not?
Yeah, he's gonna overwrite. He's gonna fuck the questions. But anyway, go
Don't
on.
actually know. Maybe hummus. I don't know. But okay, so in the First World War, what is today Israel was controlled by the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
And the Ottoman Empire was versing the British Empire. And the British Empire promised what today is Israel to a whole bunch of people. They told the what are today Saudis that were fighting against the Ottomans on behalf of the British that once we win the war and the Ottomans are defeated, we'll give you what is Israel. Around the same time, so around the First World War was when nationalism was kind of introduced to Europe, and the age of empires was declining. In the Austro-Hungarian Empire, there was a Jewish man who came up with this new idea, which is what we now today know as Zionism, but it's basically Jewish nationalism. The idea was that Jews in Europe are always going to be endangered and also cannot completely integrate with European society, so they need an independent homeland. And the British were promising everything to everyone, so they promised Israel to them as well, the Jews. And so between the Second World War and the First World War, basically it was just a statement that like within 10 years we will divide Israel between the Palestinians and the new Jewish community. So there were already Jews in Palestine, but there were European Jews that were intending on coming to Palestine. So they were saying we'll give you, we'll sort of divide up the state. But that was just an excuse because they didn't really know how to do it, and it was almost impossible to do anyways. But European Jews started coming into Palestine. Initially, they started buying land in Palestine from absentee landlords who basically had retreated after the Ottoman Empire fell. So they decided to sell off the land to relatively wealthy Jewish migrants from Europe. But most of the people working on the farms of this land were Arab Palestinians, basically Muslims. And that's where like the first sort of conflict began, because during the Ottoman days, I'm sure there were like low time issues between Palestinians and the Jewish people that lived there, but it was nothing too intense. Like they lived peacefully. It was only after the immigration that things started to get a little hectic, let's just say. So anyway, so that happens. The Second World War then takes place. And Palestine, or what was Palestine then, was relatively calm during World War II. Bizarrely, it was one of the most peaceful places at the time because the rest of the world was on fire. So the Second World War ends, and Israeli the Zionists or Jews now say, okay, now it's time for us to get Israel, Palestine to form into Israel. Palestinian Arabs disagreed. They said that this is our land. You have come here as you're foreigners to this, so we're not going to let you do this. And Arab nations alongside of them, like your Egypt, Lebanon, they all sided with the Palestinians. And then the first war took place in 1948. what ended up happening was that Israel won comprehensively, and what Palestinians today call
Why were they backed up by other nations?
they were
US or
look. There's that too, but they were just better at it than the Palestinians. The Arab armies were not prepared for. Israelis were sort of, and also they were highly motivated because they had just experienced the Holocaust. So the need to get an independent homeland was very strong for them. So I think the motivation itself helped them a lot, and they won. But one of the big problems that happened during the war was that a lot of Palestinians had to escape Israel and became refugees. Now, this is where the controversy comes in, which I'm not going to get into, but some accounts say that Israelis pushed them out. A lot of the accounts say that, and if you believe that, then you wouldn't be crazy. But some people dispute that they left on their own accord because of the war itself, that it was too uncertain for them. But anyways, whatever side you fall onto, the fact was that about 4 million Palestinians had to flee Israel. Until today, they remain refugees. And when people...
Where are they?
In different places. So they initially moved to surrounding Arab countries, but now they live in Australia, they live in the US. They still have a passport that is given to them by the United Nations because they demand that they eventually want to go back to Israel. So a lot of countries offer them citizenship. Some countries don't, but they don't want to take to citizenship because they want to go back to Israel. So that's what the right to return is called, the refugees wanting to go back to Israel. Israel till today does not allow this because of demographic differences. There's about 5 million of them. There's total 5 million Jewish Israelis. So they feel that this is not going to be great for us. So that's one of the key issues. And that started in 1948. And Palestinians call it the Nakba, which is the catastrophe, because they just had to they basically lost a lot of their land and they had to flee. Anyways, from 1948 to about 1967, Israeli Jews tried to come up with a two-state solution at that point. They wanted this matter to end. However, the Palestinian and the Arab position was that why should we agree with you, because we are morally right and this was our land. It's basically the kind of argument that indigenous communities would make, like, why do we even have to negotiate with you? This was our land, you took it away from us. So morally they may be right or wrong, but that's the position they took. To the point where around 1965, there was another war that was between the Israelis, on behalf of the Palestinians and the Palestinians, along with Egypt, Lebanon, Syria. And again, Israel won that war quite comprehensively. Actually, initially they were kind of losing, but then they won the war. And they ended up taking over huge swaths of land, which was not just Israel, but it included what was Syrian Golan Heights and the Sinai Peninsula, which was belonging to Egypt. So they took...
No need to make up countries.
So they took up
Egypt.
huge swaths of land in both of these areas. And understandably, Syria and Egypt were both freaked out. And also some parts of Jordan. So all three countries were freaked out.
You own a country. Fuck.
So they were freaked out that...
And a toothpaste brand.
our lands are taken over. So they quickly came up with a resolution with Israel. Israel basically said that you recognize us as a legitimate state and we will give you this land back. Actually, sorry, Israel didn't say that. The US and the United Nations kind of asked them to do it. So that ends up happening. And then Egypt, Syria, they all recognize it. They're one of the few countries that have recognized Israel, because Israel till today has not been recognized by, I would like to say, a majority of Muslim countries, including Pakistan. Like if you look at our passport, it says this passport is valid for every country except for Israel. Straight up, it says that. So Pakistan still hasn't recognized it, and most other countries. But Egypt, because they had to take their land back, they ended up recognizing Israel. Then there was the 19s. Basically, then they were sort of defeated and they didn't know what to do. In 1974, they launched a surprise attack on Israel, which is called the Yom Kippur War. And in the Yom Kippur War, Israel actually came pretty close to getting defeated, but they ended up again defeating their Arab neighbors and Palestinians, and again took over most of what is Israel today. And that was essentially the end of aggressive moves from Arab countries, in the sense that countries like Egypt, with using their state militaries to launch an invasion into Israel to take it, because They were just essentially defeated. That was a strategy that wasn't working. And
But
that,
also they've got nukes now.
they've got nukes, but I think
Who? Palestine.
Israel
sorry.
has nukes now, which are not.
I don't think Palestine has missiles.
I don't.
Right.
Palestine does not have a lot. But basically, what ended up happening after 1974 was that Israel came to the conclusion that we're more advanced than them. We're better at war. Fuck them, kind of thing. As in, like, every time we try to negotiate to come up with a two-state solution, we end up going towards violence as well. And they are not completely wrong about this, because the Palestinian position, again, was that this is not your land, fuck off. Specifically referring not to Jews in general. There were a lot of Jews and a lot of Palestinians, and not when I say Palestinians, not just Muslims, Christians as well. So Christians and Muslims were on one side. And so they're okay with the Jews that were living there before 1948, but they wanted the foreign Jews or the immigrant Jews to go back. And essentially, then you've been living in a stalemate. Stalemate in the sense that no Arab country around them is strong enough or has even the political motivation to attack Israel. So the only thing that was left then was the Palestinians, because they were like, well, we still have this problem. So then we move into the era of militancy, when they started launching attacks on Israel to achieve, to basically get some of their rights and all that stuff back. After 1967, the international community basically decided, look, Israel is going to stay there. You can't kick them out completely. The U.S. supported Israel a lot by this point now. And they said that we need a two-state solution.
Why'd they support Israel?
Well, from U.S.'s perspective, particularly after these wars, what the U.S. realized was clearly they are the supreme power in that area at the moment. So we'd rather side with a country that has demonstrated the capability to win wars than side with countries that have lost these wars. So just choosing the best partner in that way. The other thing is, like, straight up, like, there's a lot of influential, there's a huge influential Jewish community in the U.S. that lobbies very effectively for U.S.'s support for Israel. And one of the other points that actually some people might not know is that the evangelical community in the U.S. supports Israel too.
Because of that sort of crossover, right? Because history. I mean, it's the Christian history as well, right?
Interestingly, so the Christians believe that in order for the Christ to come back, evangelical Christians believe, in order for Christ to come back and usher in, the kingdom, whatever the
second coming.
Second coming of Christ. One of the requirements apparently is that Jews need to be in control of Israel. So they just do it for straight up theological reasons. So they're like really pro-Israel, but are anti-Jewish, which is it's a thing, bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's that. So that's why the U.S. supports Israel. And so they came up with, the U.S. along with the international community and the United Nations basically came up with the conclusion that the only way to solve this is a two-state solution. Two-state solution is, which is becoming incredibly difficult now, but basically they said what is today the Gaza Strip and the West Bank territories and East Jerusalem will belong to Palestine, and West Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and all of that area will belong to Israel. And essentially that's what the international community since then has been trying to achieve. But at this point, it is becoming very difficult to even achieve that, because on one hand, these areas are not like together. They're sort of disjointed. And so you would have to really do a lot of land swaps. And Jewish community in Israel don't want that, because they believe that they have like a historical right to even the West Bank territories. So they constantly keep moving into West Bank territories, which is illegal in international law, but is rife in Israel. They have moved there just to basically make sure that this area never goes to Palestine.
I've seen the Vice doco.
And that's what's causing the issue. Now, most Muslim countries and the non-emotional Arabs, if you ask them today, what the solution is, they would agree to a two-state solution, because there's just no way you can kick Israel or Israeli Jews back to Europe. It's impossible now. They're too strong in everything. So they would agree to a two-state solution. Israel does not necessarily want that, because they're like, look, we've managed to pacify most of these Arab countries. The only people that are now left are the Palestinians. And what's the real need for doing this? Like, we can get away with it. And the other problem is, from their perspective, and this is me trying to be neutral, from their perspective, they tried to do that with Gaza, and they ended up creating a territory that was pretty hostile to Israeli interests. So they look at it as like, if we do create another state, then they're going to be constantly fighting with us. So what's the point? We maintain control and we make sure that we are that we keep them, in line.
How many Palestinians are there?
In Israel, so in Israel and Palestinian territories. In Israel, there's the 20% of the population is Israeli Arab now, and then outside of it, there's about 3 to 4 million people. So there's 5 million Jews and about 3 to 4 million 3 to 4 million Palestinians that live in the Palestinian territories in Gaza, and about another, I think, million that live in Israel today. So there'll be about even Steven, or maybe even the Palestinians would go slightly up.
I'll tell you what the solution is. Citizenship.
Well, that's the problem.
Just make it all Israel, and then make the Palestinians go into Israel, and then they vote in their guys into parliament.
That's the ideal solution.
But then
that's the most. That's the ultimate.
Then they lose their identity, right? They lose their.
They don't agree to that.
They gain political influence, and they gain what, 40% of seats.
That's why Israelis don't want that.
Of course,
they don't want to do that. Because they're like.
If I was them, I would be signing up for that deal in a second.
That's what John Kerry's position was. When John Kerry, during the Iran nuclear deal, said that either Israel is democratic, in which case it cannot be Jewish because of the huge population of Palestinians, or you go for a two-state solution. There's no other solution over here.
Just keeping them in stasis.
So the right-wing government of Israel is, how about there's another solution? We don't do any of that. We just keep the status quo.
So what's the opposition there called? Something like the Centrist Alliance.
I have no idea.
In Israel? Well, but look,
probably run by Rex Corner.
This is
Who?
Some senator.
Oh.
I can't remember what the name of the party is, but Israeli politics is super fragmented now, and the right wing maintains control. But in defense of the right wing, even the center-left parties in Israel have not been able to come up with a very great conclusion to this problem.
Well, what's their conclusion?
They would be more willing to do the two-state solution. Like Shimon Peres and the Palestinian Liberation Organization almost came up during the Clinton days, almost came up with a resolution, but that got sabotaged. So basically now you've got a situation where you've got one of the most powerful armies in the world, which is
Hang
Israel.
on, why were they shaking hands with Jimmy Carter? What was that about?
Because they're always, those were the Camp David Accords. So the U.S. is always trying to broker a deal.
Kabut. Go on.
But the deal is always pretty unfavorable towards the Palestinians. And so it ends up not working, because this is a really emotional issue for Palestinians. Like if anyone, like, if I don't know how to convince you of this, they will, before they accept complete domination of Israel, all of them will have to die. They will. It's just too emotionally
What do you
strong
make of that
of
point?
an issue.
Just not to interrupt, but that's an interesting
You
point.
only need to move 6% of the settlers to have a state. That's about. I know, and
6%.
I wish that happens.
What did he say?
You only need to
move. The fact that all of these different communities are intermeshed with one another, and it'll be difficult to create two states. So he's basically saying that you need to move a certain people into different
Well, you
areas.
said.
Well,
6%.
basically you said.
Well, you said.
He's talking about land swaps. I would love that.
That's
But
not a high number.
I don't know if that's going to be possible, because a lot of Jews that now live in the West Bank territories are not keen on this idea at all. They've formed entire cities over there. it's gonna have to be a very grand solution that everyone's on board for, and it seems to be not happening at the moment.
Well, can they get citizenship in Israel or not?
Yeah.
Not the West Bank territory people. They can't.
Oh,
They can't.
Well, why don't they just move into another territory and slowly get in?
Because Israel has literally put up walls. That's what the whole Gaza thing is.
So
Like,
they
there's a
can't get
massive
out.
wall.
wait a sec. How
They're,
many?
like,
So how many
imprisoned.
Palestinians live in what is considered Israel?
It's about 20% of the population, so I'm guessing 1 million, maybe slightly less than that.
So it's like,
But those Arab Israelis have citizenship.
but the move for an extra 6% doesn't seem like a dramatic
Well,
move,
I don't know.
considering
That's
there's
what
already
he is
20.
saying, and I don't know his details, but I think
what's
it's
the
not
difference
as simple as just moving
Right.
6%. First of all, how the fuck do you convince that 6% people to move? So right now, all you have is a very,
beach.
very strong army in Israel is basically versing one of the most least equipped and poor people, which is the Palestinians. They've got no one. Even their Arab states have sort of abandoned them. And they keep fighting. They know that they're losing, but they end up, even a small thing like this current conflict started with literally, Miss Love, 4 to 5 families being evacuated in a suburb called Sheikh Jarrah, which is in the Palestinian territories.
Do you reckon that if Netanyahu was out, there would be something more productive happening? It's
There
just
might
that
be.
He's just been there for so long. Permanent John.
Because he
Howard.
gets his Israelis do not have an appetite to compromise. They're becoming like quite, because they keep winning these wars, they've become really
Headstrong.
arrogant is one word that they're saying we don't need to do any of this shit. So if Netanyahu is like in no mood to compromise, they think that they can muscle them, and they feel that the strategy of muscling them is more effective than compromising with them.
Do you think that if Netanyahu, because he's an old man now, when he finally dies, do you think that his party will be weak? Because that's his opinion.
No, what Netanyahu?
really?
Okay, this is how I'm gonna compare it. Netanyahu is basically Malcolm Turnbull that is being hostage to one nation in the parliament not agreeing with him and getting rid of his government. So he himself is not a crazy Yahoo, even though his name is Netanyahu.
Damn.
But he is representing an increasingly growing right-wing Jewish population that is in no mood to compromise. They believe all of Israel is theirs, including areas that they took from Syria called the Golan Heights. Like, they even believe that's theirs.
Wait, can you say that again with the comparison to Turnbull just one more time?
So Netanyahu is not necessarily ideologically super right-wing Jewish.
Right.
But he is in government, and most of his strength comes from ultra right-wing factions in Israel who have no appetite to compromise with Palestinians. They believe in literally muscling them. And I don't want to go...
The two powers there that are brokering politics, is it theologians and banks?
I don't know about banks, because corporate interest, I don't think is... It's basically, people that are like super theological and essentially Jewish nationalists. Like, who might be really
so
secular.
money's not an issue.
No, money is not... Right now, it's about land. It's about who owns this territory. So it's not necessarily about money at the moment, but...
It's really weird, isn't it? Because it's kind of like a medieval conflict.
But it's not. I want to stress this, because it is not... sometimes we assume that, Israel and Palestine have been fighting since the beginning. Not true. Like, it was actually relatively peaceful for most of its... there were always... You go way back into history when the Jews were...
No, but it's not about resource extraction or anything.
No.
It's kind of just this...
real estate.
Like, real estate, and it's our God-given right that we have this real estate.
Yeah. So... West Bank territory. West Bank territories. One of the suburbs in that area is Sheikh Jarrah, which should technically, according to international law, should be part of what would be a Palestinian state. So, the Israeli government started. Basically, we're trying to get rid of a few Palestinians that lived in one of the prime areas. Based on so Jordan had initially given those Palestinians the right to live over there. But Israel was saying, this is Israel. Like, Jordan doesn't have right to give you anything. And it sort of counters international law by saying, so technically, if it's a state, then we're not supposed to take it over. However, Palestine is not a state, so we can legally take over. And so they start forcefully, we're trying to remove about 5 families out of the suburb, which was essentially a property dispute. And from the Palestinian perspective, it was like, we've been living here since fucking forever. You can't kick us out. And they, again, the right-wing government of Netanyahu was like, muscle them, like, take them out. And that's what triggered the entire conflict.
Really?
So really, if they just
The
gave
current
you
conflict.
5 apartments, everything would be fine.
Israel is saying that they tried to do that, but Palestinians are saying that the deal wasn't good enough, and plus we don't want to move from our ancestral. Well, they're not.
Plus,
Basically, we don't want to move from
this
this
is
land.
this is a long conflict. I wouldn't say everything would be fine. It's like been an ongoing.
No, but if Spanian was there advising the government, being like, okay, this is how you get housing commission, surely everything would have been alleviated.
Well, Spaniard can
I
fix
think-
any problem, but we can't get him everywhere, can we?
It was
that's
a matter of
And he doesn't
5
wanna leave
families.
Woolloomooloo, unfortunately.
Great, it's a great area.
It
Sorry.
was a matter of 5 families. Israel could have, but I think it's and this is, I guess, my opinion, but the strategy of muscling Palestinians is not going to work. Like, you'll always be considered an evil tyrant as long as your policy is that
But they
just
don't
crush
care.
them. They're going to go Genghis Khan on this situation.
Isn't their stance, yeah, we're tyrants, so?
They wouldn't openly admit it, but basically, yeah. And there's massive public support in Israel for that too. That's another point. It's not just Netanyahu. You ask a lot of Israelis today, and they would say that there is no other way but to fight. And you go to Palestinians, and they would say there's no other way but to
I mean,
fight.
the army is mandatory in Israel, right? It's
Yeah.
mandatory.
Is it mandatory in Palestine?
They don't have an
They don't. I
army.
think they have an army, dude.
What have they got?
Sorry, Indy's got a wee. Do you mind? Thanks.
So
Look, good girl. How good is she? Oh, she's thirsty. Look, that was a good synopsis. I actually have a book that my dad got me in just after high school, and it's called My Israel Question, and it's just supposed to be basically what you've just given, like a history of the situation, and it's basically my Toad Rage 3 because I still haven't gotten around to reading it, but I'll read it one day,
maybe.
hopefully. Look, yeah.
Sure.
What's the Biden administration's stance on it? Because I saw Biden. Is his situation the same as Obama's in being like 2-state solution?
basically that.
Right,
But at
right,
this
right.
point, the idea of a 2-state solution is just
Like
a phrase. It's
Yeah,
nothing,
yeah.
because-
Like it's like it's like just a talking point where it's like, well, how would you? It's not going to stay that way if they keep.
It's just like they're not serious about a 2-state solution. Like they're just
Right,
saying
right,
that
right.
to like tell all the Muslims that, we're still trying, but really they're not really doing anything about it. Basically, they're
but
just
it's either going to be
just towing anything that Israel says.
But it's going to have to be a 2-state solution, or I would imagine, or the situation of granting citizenship, like making it.
I don't think Israel would ever agree to the granting
But
citizenship.
there is that, like, I feel like
Which
there
is
is
why
that
it's
deeper.
called an apartheid state, because ideally you'd want the state to, like usually when there's a conflict, let's say,
Apartheid meaning it's split.
meaning it's split, but they've almost purposely kept it that way because they don't want to give citizenship to all the other Palestinians.
But there is, I feel like there is that sort of. It seems like what's the word I'm looking for? Damn, she's thirsty. It seems like there's a history of hostility that I from the outside looking in seems as though it just doesn't seem like there's a simple answer by any means, because it's like there's that
There is a simple answer.
but there's that history,
it's-
like, there's that history of like hatred towards each other, correct?
the history is not that long. There's more of a history of hatred between Christians and Jews than there is of Muslims
Right.
and Jews. Or, for that matter,
Sure, but
Muslims and Christians have a longer history of hatred than Muslims and Jews.
Sure, but
So
this is
it's not like
this
this is the other
feels-
thing that a lot of people just say it's too complicated. It's really not that complicated. It just this is what happens when you've got a massive power imbalance. Like one side is just infinitely stronger than the other side.
So you don't think there's an ingrained hatred that is
I'll give you an example. So at one point in mid 2000s, Israel launched an attack on South Lebanon, which was controlled by an organization called Hezbollah, and Israel badly lost that battle. Which was actually one of their first defeats in modern times. And you know what? They stopped fucking with them afterwards.
right?
Because they were...
I thought it was Hezbollah that's fighting in Palestine. Is that not right?
They go for the Palestinian cause, but they're mostly based in South Lebanon.
Oh.
So when you've got a force, they defeated Israel in guerrilla warfare. And since then, Israel has sort of backed off from South Lebanon.
Right.
And that's how like these issues are decided.
Just
A fight,
Yeah.
whoever wins
Yeah.
gets to keep it, right?
Right.
But right now, the power imbalance is insane. Israelis are way stronger than Palestinians, which is why even when it comes to like casualties, Palestinian casualties always dwarf
Yeah.
Israeli casualties because
Yeah,
Israel
yeah.
has fighter jets,
Yeah.
and like what Israel calls the Iron Dome, which is one of the most impressive missile defense system that basically goes up and destroys all the rockets that are coming to. So
Right.
what you have is Hamas launching their shitty rocket that they smuggle, which basically falls somewhere in before anything, and Israel comes with their like massive jets
Yeah.
and pounds.
But you
spots.
really don't think that you think it's based on the power struggle, not a racial struggle. Is the racial
Yeah.
struggle just kind of like a smoke screen that people use? It's like, well, they hate each other. It's like that's
No
not that's
one-
not that's
just
not
Don't
it's
you think that that's all struggles though?
probably
Yeah. I don't think it's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
racial
probably right.
struggle. It's straight up a power struggle. It's I mean, for lack of better terms, it's kind of like with Australia and the indigenous population. Like it's a power struggle. One of them is weak and the other
Right.
one's strong. I would say that Palestinians definitely have a much stronger moral claim, but they've also
hey.
look. It's like I said. I don't want to go into. I
yeah.
don't want to go into like the opinion aspects
Yeah,
of it
because
because
it's-
I have strong opinions, and yes, my strong opinions are anti-Israel. But like I've tried to be as neutral as possible in trying to explain the history. So it's up to you guys then to decide what you want to do. Like there's already there's a lot of people that are saying I'm wrong and this is
But it's
wrong
such
and all that.
such a polarized.
Palestinians also
Yeah,
have
but
a
they say
better
that about
legal claim
ghosts.
too. Palestinians also, I think, have a better legal claim, but I think legality doesn't matter when you've got like a fighter jet, Anyway, so it's up to you guys to decide what you want, but the only thing that I would hope is that Israel rethinks its strategy of dealing with this issue. They're just being kind of mean at this point.
Yeah, look.
And if
It's
they
too-
think
I'm
they
too-
can suppress Palestinians by violence, I don't know how to emphasize this. That will not happen. You have to literally get rid of every single person to completely muscle through. There's no what Israel is trying to achieve is not possible without a mass genocide.
And the Palestinians that live in Israel, I assume they live reasonably peacefully.
Israel, they live relatively peacefully because they're passive. They're not fighting. But every time an intifada happens or when there's like right now, those loyalties are very seriously challenged. And if you ask those Palestinians that live in Israel, that are Israeli Arabs, about who you support in this situation, they would say that, look, we have a decent life in Israel, but we would always go for the Palestinians because it's an emotional response. It's not a intellectual response. Which is why I'm saying that Israel can never muscle it because it's not a matter of it's a matter of emotion. It's self-determination. Like they'll all die before they'll give in. Straight up.
Heavy. Maybe I'll read that book finally.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoy this. How about we move? Let's do one more segment before we because I don't want to particularly end on this. So we've done the Ellen DeGeneres show just ended. They canceled it for good.
Why?
How weird is
I think it wasn't getting any good ratings after the whole controversy.
really?
People got over it.
No, that's not why.
It must have been why.
Why?
I swear, no. I think she
What
was
else
just.
would it be? It was on for.
Oh,
what,
yeah, maybe you're
20
right.
years?
All right, let me read
Was
this
it?
article
Over a
then from
long
the
time.
Hollywood Reporter. Daytime's most recognizable face has decided her upcoming season, the show 19th, will be The Lost. The decision, which fell to DeGeneres, is to have several years in the making. She informed her. So she is going. Apparently, the news is that she's going. She's decided to just do it herself, but that never happens. It's
Yeah,
always,
yeah, okay, so that's
it's
just the
always
cover.
ratings. Yeah. Maybe she's just that's it. She had a good run though, and she's
Yeah.
a multi-millionaire.
That's bizarre.
All I'm saying is they should keep the set exactly the way it is. Every time I look at that, I'm like, oh, that wooden ball is very
I
nice.
hate
And
that
get
wooden
James
ball.
Corden.
Why?
It's so like daytime TV. Like
That's what it is.
I know it is, but I guess that is like a dying thing. No, maybe you're right. It just gives me like PTSD to when all I could watch was Ready Steady Cook, you know, or like Danos Direct. Yeah, it's like
What? So it makes you uncomfortable because it reminds you of Ready, Steady, Cook.
kind of, yeah.
But that's why I like it.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Look,
You've
not
won
gonna
me over
watch
on
it,
this one.
but yeah.
You've won me over on this one.
Finally. See, peace agreements can happen. And also, I was watching Ellen the other day. I think I was too harsh on it.
She's good.
Finally, I think it was really coming into its form just when it was cancelled.
Really?
Typical.
Was it exactly the same show? Like, was it any different? Was
Well, apart from the fact that everyone was on a giant Skype screen.
yeah.
But I think that it was pretty much the same show, surely. It
Was
was just
it-
her looking nervously into the camera, not getting over the fact that she's been on TV yet.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the magic of
She
it.
probably-
And how are they going to replace that? Who else is going to be nervous in front of a camera?
How did she ever get a job? Wasn't she a comedian?
Yeah.
Was she a good comedian?
No.
Right.
And she still isn't, but she still starts with an opening monologue, and that monologue is.
Does she still say y'all be nice to each other?
I mean, I'm assuming that she
Because
does.
what a so
Yeah.
many things. Because that was her entire brand, and it
Yeah,
turns out
it's
she
like
was
be
really,
nice.
really mean to everyone. I'm not surprised by it.
Maybe she should have just made it.
But isn't that what
She
Hollywood's
should just come out
Hollywood's
to the
supposed
song
to be
I'm
like?
a bitch.
I thought,
I'm a
I thought that's
lover.
what Hollywood's supposed to be like. How it's like we razz you, we do pranks on you. Like I thought that's what you needed to do in Hollywood back in the day. Like when it was like Dershowitz and Brothers presents
Yeah, true.
the
Look, there's-
Knuckleheads. Like that shit was mad.
Dershowitz presents the knuckle.
Yeah, harden up
Wait.
Hollywood. That's what I say.
Yeah, look, but ratings are ratings.
Yeah, yeah,
And
true.
If you, I really don't know how you can survive, actually, now that I think about it. If your entire audience are housewives and you're known for being mean.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
They don't watch me for a reason.
Yeah.
Unless she wants to get my audience of neckbeards. And there's a simple solution to that, Ellen.
Maybe Ellen's show finishing is just the death knell of like mainstream TV. I'm
Well,
calling it the internet might be getting bigger than mainstream TV.
It's a big call, Miss Love. But look,
What do you say, my very successful YouTuber
Ellen
friend?
of Australia.
That's right.
But that's the thing. I'm just honest about the fact that I'm Ellen, while she's not honest that she's Ellen.
So this, it's just strange.
That's what I reckon that they went the wrong way. She should have just rebranded.
I guess it's just
You're
hard
such
for me
a
to believe it.
contrarian. You like Ellen now?
Yes, I do.
I think
Because I
it's
found
right.
out she's mean.
but I guess it's hard. Yeah, fair. I guess it's
You
like
both need empathy training. What's going on?
Yes, well, she definitely.
I
needs
just find it hard to
empathy
believe that her ratings were down just because of that whole thing. Maybe they were down.
There is a
training. Well,
possibility.
you know the other thing that I think they might be blaming it on? COVID. Have you seen all of the nighttime talk show hosts?
Yeah, everything's
Have
bombing.
you seen their views?
Everything's bombing.
Jordan-
Because
Everything.
as soon as they
You're-
don't have an audience there laughing at them,
Yeah.
and then it's just them talking to someone
Yes.
on Skype, they may
Is
as well be watching me talk to Kevin Rudd.
You know what it
It's
is?
insane. Like check out Conan O'Brien's channel. His interview with Phoebe Buffet from Friends, what's her name? Lisa Kudrow. Two very famous people,
Horrible, right?
10,000 views, 20,000 views.
Yeah,
like
but again,
equivalent to
it's
this
Phoebe from
fucking
Friends.
podcast.
No, but you know what
Yeah.
happened? You know what's happened? Exactly what Jordan said, right? Because I've watched like a few clips of like Colbert, even Bill Maher, dude. Even Bill Maher. I love Bill Maher, but I was watching all of.
Actually, I got a lot of shit last time. I've got a lot of hate from the fans,
For what?
audience, because I said Bill Maher was killing it, and they're like, "You are very, very wrong. Bill Maher is not killing it. He is horrible."
Yeah, but that's because strangely there's people that watch this podcast and also watch Vorsh. I don't know what that crossover is.
I don't know what that is.
Maybe it's just the fact that Ali wears his hair like Vorsh. I don't know what the deal is.
I don't know what Vorsh is, but
And it'd be so wrong if you did.
yeah, I'll just watch Porsche infomercials. But the point I was making was
Yes.
I've watched all these guys to what you were saying without a laugh track. And it's just that thing of The Simpsons where they started to rewrite Itchy and Scratchy and it's really boring. They're just like, beep, they turn it off and then it's like, and everyone goes outside and starts like running like those tires and like painting fences. And those shows, people are realizing,
Suck.
yeah, without the laugh track and without that energy, it's unwatchable, man. It's really unwatchable, which is a testament to people like you and like PewDiePie and stuff. No laugh track, none of that shit. That's how you started. You learned how to build. You have to.
I don't understand how they haven't figured this out with all of their market research. Replace the laugh track with a track.
Yeah,
You just have to put like a lo-fi hip hop beat in the background while you're talking.
but there's a reason why everyone under 30 just lives on the net because they can get what they want when they want it from people that are catering to them specifically. They're not accountable to any shareholder or industry or financer or TV station. It's obviously it's going to be better. It's tailored to them from people that have started from there. Started, by making content for them. The only people that pay them are their audience.
True that.
It was inevitable.
Also is testament to how dumb the American audience is.
Probably.
That they were just enamored for 50 years with, how you doing? Good.
Come on, we were too. Though.
he went there.
We were too.
I was too.
We watched Oprah. We watched.
Wait, did we watch Oprah?
Well, we did.
We did, yeah.
Oprah, Ready Steady Cook, Dr. Phil, Jerry Springer, all the hits. Like that's all there was, and we ate it
But
up.
I think that those shows would still be fine in the age of COVID. Maybe not Jerry Springer because he'd just be on Skype being like, hey, you threw a chair? Okay, he's offline now.
What about
Jerry
this
Springer
possibility?
does not know what the internet is. Let's not go crazy.
What about this possibility that Ellen's numbers weren't down, but since the controversy, she just lost the will to do the show?
Yeah, that is actually a possibility.
Well, because she's sad that she gets hate mail.
Yeah, and also like she's
was
been outed.
used to it. I imagine that before that, she was so wholesome that internet trolls wouldn't even bother with Ellen. It would just be a bunch of 6-year-olds dancing to Michael Jackson, and only people watching that are going to be like, she can do it pretty good, I guess.
I think Ellen's been replaced by James Corden. Move
Well,
on.
the one that they were going to, that's actually a suggestion that was flying.
You're right.
But the other one that they were going to replace her with is Chelsea Handler. How weird is that they're like, Ellen's too mean. Let's replace her with the meanest person in
on the-
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right.
And how's that going to work for daytime TV?
Hey Jordan, are you Chelsea Handler of Australia?
Who is she? I don't know who she is.
I don't want to admit
I'm
it, but I
Googling
am.
No,
Googling.
you're not.
Chelsea, look at me. I'm Chelsea Handler.
Wait, is this the journalist you went after from SMH?
No, you know what?
Ah!
Did you like that mashup?
What mashup?
Someone fused your face onto her head, and I was like,
Oh yeah.
"Is it the same person?"
Do I have to answer that? No, I did not like that mashup.
That's Chelsea Handler. miss.
Sorry. Yeah, look, dude, I am a boomer. I don't know who the fuck that is.
And also, I think the only thing missing. Well,
catch.
Indy is really killing it. But yeah, you haven't slept with 50 Cent, so you're not Chelsea Handler.
Yeah, but there's still time.
But can we all collectively agree that, and I know, very controversial opinion, more controversial than the Israel-Palestine conflict, the net might burn out free-to-air TV. Sorry. Throw your daggers.
Yeah, I don't know what it can compete with these days. Maybe high-budget reality TV shows.
Yeah.
And I can just milk that and put my face in between it, being like, huh, what an idiot. Anyway, like and subscribe.
Exactly.
So I'm still getting, like, that is insane in this day and age that I'm getting 250,000 views for responding to television.
Well, it's a weird, people still have the reptilian part of their brains, don't they? But, like, I'm just glad that...
That's an insult.
Well, he knows it. What? I don't think he's reacting to fucking maths being like, yeah, my best work. No, maybe my reaction
What
to the
about
Bachelor
the
were better.
greatest doco of all times?
That is what I think.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
What about the greatest doco of all times, where Jordan reacted to that Sky News doco with Malcolm Turnbull being Kevin Rudd?
Yeah, that was great. Fly
That
Undone.
was great knowing. Fly Undone.
Hey, is your fly open right now?
I don't have
There's
a
another one. That's the trick.
short-circuited the game.
All right, well, I think it's we're out of time.
Well, be kind to each other.
Hey, and also
Love each other, y'all.
love each other. Thanks for tuning in. And if you want more of this goodies, or even more so, if you want the VIP experience, join up on Patreon.
Yeah.
FriendlyJordies podcast Patreon, and you will access
Deep dives.
basically what this is,
but us
more.
being less scared.
Yeah, much less scared because it's
Basically, that's
live.
what
Yeah, if you want to hear our real views on Israel and Palestine, you
No,
know where to go.
it's probably not going to happen. No. Well, we don't have real views. It was all a learning curve. But
Miss Love's too afraid.
Yeah.
Gavin is awesome. Just admit it.
and Al Jazeera over here is also too afraid.
Which, by the way, Israel bombed.
I know.
Very unfortunate.
There you
You
go.
don't need
All
to
right.
look at the peace agreements. Just look at these shit.
All right, see you guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.